One of the most challenging skills that you have to learn as a content creator is how to master the hook. And in this first of multiple series episodes going through the Hooks Masterclass, I'm going to teach you everything that I have learned about hooks and how you can master them as well. Ready for this? Let's jump into it. All right, so the more time that I'm spending in content and studying and trying to understand what makes great content, their recurring theme that keeps coming back over and over and over again is this idea of mastering the hook. And for great reason, right? Because if you cannot convince someone in the first 3 to 5 seconds to watch your content, then who cares whatever the rest of the content has to say or show, because they're not going to watch it. So why even waste your breath? You know, it's like it seems kind of like aggressive to say that. It's like, well, why make the content anyways if no one's going to watch it? But there's truth to it, because if you make content that you think, oh my gosh, this is amazing content, this is so good. Even if it is, if that hook is not strong enough to tell them that, hey, the next 60 seconds of your time is worth giving to this video, then who cares? They're not thinking from your point of view where it's like, but what, like when I say this thing at like the 36-second mark, like it's so good. It's like, okay, well, if you think that's the best, then put that at the very beginning of the video and then have it loop back to the start so that people at least have that hook. The point is that hooks are so important, and I still don't think that of everything that I've seen around content, we get so lost on everything else. We get lost on the ideas, which ideas are still very important. We get lost on like the editing techniques. We get lost on the graphics or the sound or whatever it is. And we totally just put hooks off to the side. And I still think that that's one of the biggest reasons why content does not perform. Okay, so you could say that your hook is directly related to your idea, but I see a lot of people in the world, at least in long form in YouTube, they're taking the thumbnail and the hook and the headline first as their idea, and then the end takeaway before they even fill in everything in between. And so the same principle could be applied that, well, why don't we start with the hook first and finding really good hooks that have worked in the past, or just taking the things that are the most popular out there and making our headline, and then going through and thinking about our takeaway and then filling it in with everything else after that. That's kind of the strategy that we want to work with. But in general, my objective is with this series is I just want to like spew everything that I've learned about hooks for you so that you can take everything that I've learned, and probably more because you've probably learned from other people as well, and then apply that to your content strategy and start to actually see better results for your content. And the best way you can see that is you just start looking at your watch time. Is your watch time going up? Are more people seeing your content? Are you getting more reach with your content? And if you don't think that your hooks are strong enough yet, then that means you need to be spending way more time learning and mastering how to do that in order for your content to start performing better. Because it does not matter how great your idea is, how cinematic or full of production it is. I've seen so many, in fact, I've seen specifically in one scenario that I was talking to someone about this agency was paid $15,000 basically for one short video. And that short video got 800 views. The first thing I realized from that is that I'm not charging enough, and I should just be doing single videos for companies, because that's an egregious amount of money on one video with a very low output. Unless they're repurposing it for other things, which they did not say that, then that makes sense. But in general, it's like so much money is spent on high production and all these things, but then you turn around and all of a sudden it's not performing the way you want it to. And you're like, was that video worth $15,000? I don't know. I don't think so. So in general, we want to get back to the roots of content and what makes something stand out, and that's going to be hooks. So this episode specifically, I'm just going to be talking about the 5 core elements of every single hook. This is probably one of the most important and imperative lessons I've learned around hook creation, because it really helps me break down structurally all the different areas where I can create my hook. It helps me kind of like formulate my thoughts. It kind of gives me a lane to stick in to think about for every single video, so that I at least am more informed on the strategy for each one, so that we kind of go into it knowing which things we're testing and kind of how to iterate. But it gives me so much more clarity when I'm thinking about how do I make my hooks better. This is it for you. This is the video that's going to explain everything. It's going to be like, I don't know if you've ever seen How I Met Your Mother. Maybe Matrix is a better example of this, but in How I Met Your Mother, there's this episode where they all are friends, and all of a sudden it's called like the glass shattering episode, I think. But the idea is that like the friends say, oh, you didn't know that this person did this all the time? Like, yeah, they chew so loudly. Or like, yeah, they always say this word all the time. and all of a sudden the sound of glass is shattering, and then they cannot unsee it. Everywhere they go, they see that person doing that thing, and it starts to annoy the crap out of them. And in the Matrix terms, this is, you get red pilled. You can never go back. You will never see things the same again. You either go back into the simulation or you break out of the simulation. And for hooks, this is going to do that for you, because I have some real tangible examples that I want to show you with a few viral accounts on how this has actually worked for them, and how they've gotten really big. And that's going to help you kind of understand and actually see how this is being played out. But it's going to change the way that you see content forever, because you'll never be able to unsee the hooks. And this is what I hear all the time from my friends and from people that I've been training in this hook stuff. They send me messages all the time. They're like, dude, I cannot unsee it now. I see it everywhere. I'm looking at content, and it's just ridiculous. All right, so let's jump into that. There's 5 elements. Okay, I'm going to give it to you real quick, all 5 of them, but then we're going to break down each of them individually. And I need to slow down when I'm talking, because my cadence is just, I'm slurring my words now, and I'm sorry. All right, so here are all 5 for you. So we have audible hooks, we have verbal hooks, we have textual hooks, we have visual hooks, and we have caption hooks. Okay, so those are going to be all 5 for you. And then we're going to break down each of them for you in depth, so you have a better understanding of each of these guys. All right, so we're going to start off with audible. And audible, it's as it sounds. And I know some of this stuff might sound super, like, yeah, I get it, bro. Like, I know what an audible hook is. Okay, but let me start explaining it with examples so that you really start to catch this, because again, I really don't think that enough of us understand this well enough. I thought I did forever until I really started breaking the glass on this and seeing how this actually works in content. Okay, so audible is going to either be the music that you use, it's either a sound effect that you put into there, or the biggest one that actually makes a lot of sense is trending sounds, right? So when you have a certain song that's taking off or a certain dance that's going viral, when people are standing in front of the camera and they hit record and they back up, or they're already backed up, they already hit record, or whatever it is, okay, nothing about that video is going to tell me that this is going to be a good video. But if I know that there's a trending viral video on this thing right now, or it's like it's a trend that people are doing, and I hear that audible music being played, then I know, oh, this is probably their take on this dance. Oh, it's their take on this type of challenge. And so then I'm curious to then watch, because I'm obviously you're curious and you want to see how this person's going to do that specific trend and see if they're going to nail it or if they're going to suck at it. And so that's why like a lot of people like chasing trends, is because the reason why is because it's the sound itself is what's driving the virality, because it creates the curiosity gap itself. The problem is that people like to take a lot of trending sounds and they try to leverage that to make their content based off of it. And the problem with that is not that doesn't work, but for the majority of people, it doesn't work. And so I tried doing that for a long time. And when you chase that rabbit's tail of an audible, trendable sound, and you want to use that in your videos, and you're like, why isn't this working? It's either because you're taking a trending sound that has nothing to do with how it trended in the first place, and people don't care about it, or your ideas just are not unique enough about how it can stand out in that space. And so then we go into a deeper problem. But that's how people can drive virality, simply just on an audible hook. Nothing else is in it. There's no text. There's nothing verbally being said, and visually nothing is crazy that you're looking at that makes you think like, oh, something's about to happen. And all it is just having an audible sound. Now, this can also apply to music as well. So there are tons of songs that I've heard out there, especially I spend more time, I think, on YouTube Shorts than I do on other platforms. With YouTube Shorts, there's some certain songs out there where it's almost like it's a collective mashup of videos, or it's one person that's talking. And I promise this is not full of my feed, but it was like Andrew Tate, and it's basically like it's building up to him roasting someone or saying something crazy. And so like the beat is building up to drop, and then when it drops, it goes into like a montage of him and like all of his cars and girls and all that kind of stuff. And I see that with people all the time. I see it on Joe Rogan podcast stuff. I see it with all these different things. So in general, it's whenever you hear that sound and you've been triggered or trained to understand that if I hear this sound, this is what's going to happen, almost like we're freaking monkeys. Then when you hear that, you then though, like something crazy is about to happen, like it's about to drop, it's probably going to be good, like dude's going to drop a mic, so I want to listen to this thing. And the same thing can also be applied, and this is the last example I'll give you on this one. I don't have a physical example for this one because I don't know exactly how to get sound playing on this thing right now. But think about like funny songs. So you hear like those funny music. One of them's called Monkey Dancing, I think is the name of the song, or 12 Monkeys Dancing, something like that. But it's just like the little like playful fun sound that you hear. And when you hear that, it usually is tied to a prank or something of that nature. And so when you hear the audible sound of what's happening in the video, it can already do enough to drive and build a curiosity gap in your viewer that leads to some kind of payoff. Okay. And remember, the context is, for all videos that we're creating, the objective is that we want to push retention as high as possible for them. We want them to stay until the very end of the video. We don't want them to drop off at 20 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever it is. We want them to stay until the very end, because the longer they stay on the platform, or the longer they stay watching your video, the longer they stay on your platform. And the longer they stay on their platform, the more they can spend money on ads, or they can drive ads towards those viewers and towards that audience that hopefully is going to buy something or sign up for something that's going to then reinforce the companies that are paying money for ads for these platforms to keep spending more money. And at the end of the day, all that these social platforms actually care about is making money. I love following Adam Mosseri, who's the founder, or he's the CEO of Instagram. And all the time he's like, we just want to make sure we have a great experience for you guys. We want to make sure that you guys are having, like a great engagement session when you're talking with people and connecting with people. And we just want to customize your experience for you. And it's like, okay, bro, but like, you got to make your shareholders happy. Don't like we have a BS meter now, and you can kind of read past it. And that's just like what I see. So they care about money, they care about retention, and that's how you do it. And so the hook is supposed to set up that expectation of like what's going to happen in this video. But that's where, and we'll talk about this later, you don't want to give that payoff till the very end of the video, right? You don't want to show the prank like right away after like 7 seconds, and then it's all just reaction content after them laughing and goofing and then like going back after each other. It's like you're going to kill it way too fast, and you want to be careful with that. So Audible is great. And here's the one caveat about it, is that when you look at all the different platforms, they talk about how there's only a certain percentage of people that do watch with sound. So with TikTok, which is the highest, 85% of people are listening with sound. Okay, that's the highest. Facebook, 85% of people are watching without sound. Like people, I don't know what it is about Facebook, but people just do not want to listen to audio when they're on Facebook. So a trending sound on Facebook is probably not going to perform well. For Instagram, it's about a 50-50 split. About 50% of people are listening with audio, 50% are not. I want to say LinkedIn is around the 60% range, but I could be wrong, but it's also a pretty high number. YouTube, I don't have the exact numbers on, they've never shared, but that's also because YouTube is a long form and a short form platform. So it's kind of hard for us to distinguish some of the information on that. But in general, across the board, if that's the behavior on all these platforms, it probably can also be in that range as well for other people. Whatever it is, there's still a percentage of people who are not listening with sound. So if you want to think about virality, there are so many times where I've seen a video that goes viral and you think like, well, that one went viral, so like you don't need to change anything. It's like, but what happens if you added a sound to it? How much more viral could it go in the future? And a perfect example of this is that there was a video that I did for one of my clients where it was a repost. I literally reposted this video of a clip from Modern Family. And it was from an account where that video had like 1 or 2 million views, I think. And it was like an exceptional performer on their account. So I reposted it, but I put a text-based hook over the top of it. Now, I could have just reposted it as it is, and the hopes is like, oh, that would take off too, and that should just do exactly what the other account did, and like that video should work. But when I put a text-based hook on it, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it drove that video to 7.5 million views. It's the highest viewed video I've ever done, and it wasn't even my video, it was just literally a repost. But all I did was added a text-based hook, and that video that originally got 2 million views got 3.5x its performance, even on a virality level of like millions of views, simply because I added the text-based hook into it. So never discount a video's potential to continually grow and to go more viral the next time you repost it by simply including more elements of when it comes to hooks into your content. Okay, so the next one on our list is going to be verbal. This is the most straightforward of all of them. This is the one where we're talking to the camera. A more common approach to this now is actually when you use like an AI voice that talks over for this. For whatever reason, I just think that's because people just don't want to talk to the camera, or they try to do a voiceover and it's using your phone. It's not that great, and AI is much easier to do it. There's an account that I follow specifically called Repute Forge. You can go check them out. I want to say they have probably 800,000 followers right now, and he built this account. I'm in his group. It's his account. He built this account. Here we go. simply by doing marketing content and social media growth he put in there. But he has 896,000 followers, but all of his videos are all just AI voice over his script. So if you don't want to be the person that's having to say the hook out loud, then you can, of course, have some AI say it. But for the most of the people that are watching this content that are hopefully in the world of being their own content creator, being a personal brand, a founder specifically, like you're not going to want to have AI speaking over any of your stuff. You want to do it yourself. The AI stuff is for, faceless brands and for individuals that don't want to be out there. It's actually really great for business if you want to do this for a business account, because then you're not tied down to one specific person who's doing the content. You're just using AI for the voice over that. And that's actually like a really great strategy, unless you want to create some kind of mascot for your content, because that could work really, really well too. But verbal hooks, this is what I would say is, this is the most challenging of all the hooks to master, because it requires you to be able to say the hook, right? Like visually, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and text-based are a little bit easier to do, but verbally you have to say it, which means that you have to somehow hook them in with what you're going to say as quickly as possible. And that's just the most challenging, because you're not getting any kind of support from a visual hook or a text-based where you can use emojis, or Audible where like the audio already did it for you. You don't have to do anything with the audio. And even a caption, which we'll talk about last, which by the way, if you're already kind of getting a little bit bored with this, I promise Captions is going to be the one that blows your mind the most, because no one talks about this. But with the verbal based hook, like you don't have any like support coming behind you to make this thing better. So you just have to get really good at this. And this is what I study the most, because it's what I do with my type of content. I'm looking straight at the camera, or I'm talking off screen, or I'm doing this with clients, and I have to give them hooks on the fly, or we have to prep the hooks and stuff. And the verbal ones, it requires tonality, conviction, emotion, like so many different elements that you don't think about when you say a hook, right? So if I have a client that I say, all right, I want you to say this for the hook, the problem is that if they are monotone, or they don't carry a lot of conviction, or they don't know how to say it because they're like awkward in front of the camera, then it makes what could be a great verbal hook not a great hook, because there's other elements that are like pulling it back from being able to perform at its highest level. So verbal hook requires so many more things, especially when you add a face to it, when you're doing like, conversational type content. And that's why you have to be really, really, really good at that, or you need to be spending a ton of time at training and getting better at that in order for those to perform. But if you can master those, I promise that if you can master verbal hooks, every other hook becomes like a cakewalk, because it all includes the same elements that you have to learn about verbal hooks, but instead you get so much more support with doing these text-based ones, right? Like when I've done text-based hooks, like I was just talking about my example of that viral video, like I understood the principles that apply still to verbal, but I did it in a text-based and it performed really, really well, right? Like 3x, and it got 7 million views. So the point is that like for yourself, if you're trying to do more content that's in the verbal hook realm, then I encourage you to spend way more time on this, trying to figure out how this works and mastering that before we get into the other ones, because that's what's going to have the long-term effect and growth for your content strategy. Okay, so the next one up is going to be Textual. So let's jump over to my browser here and pop open. So I have one on ESPN, and I got one on Memesar. So Memesar is a great account that I want to use for this example, because they do probably the best job at this, but there's plenty of others that are out there that do this as well. Now Memesar's got 23 million followers. So you can look at their content and go, well, yeah, of course they're going to have high performing content. They already have like millions of followers. Okay. The idea is no matter what account it is, always look at the peak performing videos, not the average base views that they get. Look at the ones that are performing exceptionally well for them. And so if I click over on the Reel side here, there are certain videos, like if I'm looking at this one right here, I don't even think that this is pinned, because this is not I don't think this is pinned. It doesn't show me a pin thing on here, which is kind of crazy. This video right here has 120 million views. 120. When I wrote these notes down originally, it had 112. It's gained another 8 million views since. Okay. Now this is technically a pair of a visual hook with a verbal hook. I'm sorry, a visual hook with a text-based hook. But the text is what gets you more interested, because if I'm looking at this, yeah, sure, it looks a little bit interesting, but nothing about this makes me think that something's bad's going to happen right away, unless you read the text base up top. It says, I was trying to do some DIY today when this happened to me. And then when you look at it, you're like, oh, something's about to happen. And fortunately, they they kind of have the giveaway pretty quickly, but it's a quick video. It literally lasts like 8 seconds, 10 seconds. So it replays constantly. So the rewatch time, and people want to watch this over and over again, is super high because they're like, wait, what the frick just happened? But another way to do this is that you have like way more time in the build up until it happens. Give it another 3 or 5 seconds. And now you have a video with a 15-second total duration and the watch time just as long. But I think that the idea here is you just want tons and tons and tons of views. So the shorter the video is where it has to replay and you have to watch it multiple times, the better. And this is where Memes Art is great, is that because they create these captions and it's all meme content, everybody's going to be in the comments, right? Like this person says, girl, you almost DIY'd, but like it's spelled like girl, you almost died. And then some of these other ones say she went from cabinet to coffin real quick. These are actually super funny. But the idea is that like if you're reading the captions, there's also going to be a rewatch time happening in the background of your video, right? So as you're reading the captions, the comments, the video is still playing in the background. So the rewatch time is probably insane on this. But Memes Art, just go and look at their content, okay? Like don't take my word for it. Look at their stuff. Every single one of these has a text-based hook in it. This one says, she said, can I get a picture of the fish you just caught? And the top part, the text-based says, no freaking way. Okay. This is what you need to understand about this, is that the problem is that people kind of get this. They're like, yeah, I got to put text in there. I got to put something up there. The problem is that you're not thinking about driving curiosity. You're just explaining the video and you give it away completely. Like if this was like, I don't even know what this is about. Let's watch this real quick, because then it'll help me with this. Okay. So she has a fish. Oh God. She has a fish. She loses the fish. She tries to grab the fish and it escapes. Okay. She said, can I get a picture of the fish you just caught? Dude, that's so rough. That's so rough. Example of never give up. That fish was determined. That's amazing. Okay. The point is that if that top of the video says that poor guy got away, or like, yay, he got away, or something like that, you'd be like, all right, I get the video. I get the idea. Like the fish jumps out and he gets away. But if you just say no freaking way, who knows what's going to happen? Maybe the fish jumps and gets away. Maybe the fish eats her. Maybe the fish is dead already, or whatever it is. Like there's so many things that it could be, but you don't know because the hook just says no freaking way. And it's in all caps. And so then the follow-up, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is the caption based on this thing too, which is going to add to that level of intrigue and curiosity. But if you just keep looking through this content, you just keep going. Like all these, even a rat is experiencing genuine love. Then there's you. Like this one, I witnessed an insane beer toss at the marathon today. This one has 1.6 million views. But again, like remember, look at the outliers. Look at the ones that perform way higher than the other ones. This one has 43 million views. What does this one say? This is a man named Siriam Baba who lives in Madhya Pradesh, India, and is alleged to be 110 years old. And then it says, Jake Paul, finally, an opponent worthy. Our battle will be legendary. Okay, so yeah, this is why these guys get so many followers, because they're just freaking hilarious. But one, that text is long enough to where when I read it, it almost replays the video once before I even get to it. And then now you have to read the bottom part and you have to watch this. So you now have to watch this video twice in order to get the full thing because of how this is stacked, which is such a strategic way to do this. But nothing about this is giving away a video too quickly to where you're like, oh, like I already get the point of this. It's I don't want to watch this. But like, you have to pay attention to text-based hooks, because if you can master this and do this in this type of meme type content, stuff will go viral all the time. This is who Mike Tyson is fighting. It says even the Simpsons couldn't have predicted this. Like this is Jake Paul's old videos. This is the kind of stuff that, like, you know, obviously it's trending because Jake Paul is about to fight Mike Tyson. I think he already did. So a little bit in the past. But anyways, point is that text-based is actually super, super, super powerful. And that's how they leverage this. They take ideas where, like, for instance, with this one, with her with the birthday cake, I've seen this one before. If this was just her lighting the candle on this thing and it didn't say any of the text-based hook and it didn't have anything here in the caption, it was just the video by itself, there is a chance that it could still go viral, because if there's a few people that do happen to watch it and they're like, holy crap, this is crazy, and they happen to comment and engage with it, it can still perform well. But it's going to perform so much better when you add these other elements of the hook into it that just stack on top of each other. And so this video is her like lighting these candles that are like fireworks. And so it literally goes nuts inside of this restaurant. I'm not even sure how this happened, but it just goes insane. Like it's going all over the place. And so it says, how much aura did we lose when we set off fireworks in a restaurant thinking they were cake sparklers? And then it says, definitely a birthday you won't forget. Laughing emoji. Not going to lie, if you told me they were cake sparklers, I would have believed you too. The last thing I'm going to say about this, and then we're going to keep going down on this, is when one of the like kind of like higher level ways to do this, or to kind of stack on top of this to make this work, is you use emojis. Okay. Why? Because emojis are emoticons, literally emotions. And when you put an emoji next to the video, you're setting an expectation in the viewer's head of what kind of emotion they're going to experience from this. So the sad emoji is kind of like a, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this happened. And kind of like a, you know, like an oh my gosh moment. The face palm, where it's like, right here, the face palm is the thing that's saying like, ugh, like something bad is about to happen. Like, I cannot believe this happened. The sad emoji right here, and this happened to me today, sad, right? Like a little bit of empathy. I need this ASAP. Crying emoji. Like, notice how there's an emoji in almost every single one of these videos. You have the laughing emoji right here. Mom, come get me, I'm scared. Reaction. Like, there are so many emojis in these, but if you realize that emojis are just setting up more of an expectation of what you're going to get from it, so a laughing emoji and that kind of stuff, it's going to perform better. Now, obviously, the content has to be funny. So you can't just make crappy content and throw an emoji on it and call it a day and think, oh, someone's going to like this. Like, you have to be really in tune with understanding what people love and enjoy in order for you to have a grasp of this is something that people will actually want to watch. If you don't, and you just live in your bubble and you think that everything's funny that you put out there and your content's not that funny, then you're going to have a really hard time having anything perform super well for you. So text-based hooks on videos, Memesar is probably one of the best accounts to do this. I see this still working with a lot of other accounts. ESPN does a great job of this. So ESPN has like their own where it says like Peyton's reaction to the touchdown being called back. Like, look at that emoji that's right there, right? And this stays on the screen the entire time. Like, it doesn't have to go away right away. You just make it blend in with everything. You don't have to beautify every single video. You just have to have it, you know, create enough attention and awareness so people want to watch it. So like, there's emojis and text-based for these guys all the time. It looks like they literally just do it inside with like the stories feature, or they just make the video inside of the Reels platform. But in general, you're going to see a lot of these text-based hooks and all these things. So go look at ESPN, go look at SportsCenter, go look at all these accounts, because they're going to follow the same exact process for all of their videos that they do. All right, so that's going to be your quick crash course, kind of quick, on text-based. The next one we're going to talk about is visual. Visual is by far going to be the easiest for you when it comes to trying to think of like a visual hook, or just a hook in general for your content, because visual can be aided by doing so many things that doesn't require you to talk. Okay, there is I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but I know his wife's name is Adley, and they do content on Facebook, and they make those super, super stupid viral videos that are like pranks where it's like, okay, well, close your eyes and I'm going to put your hands in this thing. And it's like, dude, come on. Like, this is so cheesy. I know what's going to happen, but like, for whatever reason, you still want to watch. It's like, that's how you get that level of virality, is that it's like, it's so wholesome and it's so cheesy that everybody can still watch it, but there's still something in you that wants to see what's going to happen. But they make these videos like 3 to 5 minutes long. So their watch time for a video of that nature is they're getting billions of views on Facebook. These people are honestly competing with people like Mr. Beast, and they don't have to spend freaking, $15 million on like a video. Like, they can just make the video and, $50,000 probably, and way less. And so when it comes to visual hooks, I think that the best example of this that I'm going to show you, and obviously this isn't as relevant for your content, but I want the idea to stick, and examples doesn't really helps with that a lot, is going to be Red Bull. So Red Bull, I think it was this guy that I moved it from. We'll come back to this. Okay, yeah. So Red Bull does an incredible job at this. And again, whenever you're looking at content, always look at the outliers, the ones that are performing better than normal. So right now it looks like, okay, 2.5 million, 2.9 million, 2.9, 2.4, 1.4, 3. Like, these are all about the average views that a video should get around that. So like, these still work. They obviously still are very high performing, but in general, what are the ones that even those outperform the rest that people are really interested in? Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, if you scroll down here a little bit, there's a video right here that has 9.2 million views. Guess what? This guy is literally skydiving, or I'm sorry, I said skydiving. That's a miss. That's the thumbnail literally shows someone skydiving right here. It says ski jump world record, but it doesn't look like he's It looks like he's in the sky. So if I saw visually that as like a thumbnail, obviously that's going to make me interested because I'm like, I don't see stuff like this, so I got to watch this thing. And then you watch it, and I have actually seen this video before. This guy is being pulled through a bunch of different rocks. Oh, it's a compilation now. I haven't watched this in a minute. We got extreme pole vaulting. World's longest rail. Okay, so it's a compilation of some of the best ones out there. So in general, you have a bunch of different videos that constantly keeps your attention going because it's an extreme of whatever's happening. But in general, the idea is that visually, when you look at this, something is crazy. Like this is an insane view. Look at this view right now, right? This guy's about to launch into the air. Okay, dude is flying. He's an absolute squirrel. That right there is visually what you see at the start of this thing, or whatever this other first guy is doing. He's about to go through this crack. Like you're immediately intrigued to want to watch this video. The next one that would perform really well is check out this one that has 17.5 million views. 1 pro versus 100 amateurs. Who wins? So I haven't watched this video before, but clearly the question is, and these are like the extremes you get from like a Mr. Beast or that kind of stuff, where it's always the 1 versus the 100 or whatever it is. But clearly now there is a stake, or there's a challenge at hand where like you're trying to see what's going to happen. Is the pro going to be all of these amateurs, or is he going to get stuck in the back, or is he going to finish in second place, whatever it is? And he has there's a visual that breaks down. He's 60 out of 100, 59 out of 100. And that keeps you engaged the entire time. Another video that I just saw right here was 11.5 million. It starts off with a visual hook of this guy blow torching some of these exhaust pipes. But that's super satisfying. Like look at the color on the metal as it's blowing flames on it. Like that is so pretty. But that visual hook gets you to want to keep watching. So Red Bull is a great example of this, where you look at their videos and they do extreme stuff. Clearly the second you see it, your mind is like, whoa, I got to stop. I got to check this out, because you don't see that very often. If you see someone just talking to the camera like this, it's going to be really hard to visually get them to do that. So what you do instead is you borrow visuals of other things that are already popular or very well mainstream and understood by the masses, and have that pop up or cover your entire video before you go talking about whatever you're going to talk about, because then that is the visual hook that you can use in post-production and editing and that kind of stuff to supplement for the visual that otherwise your face by yourself is not going to help with. A great example of this is if you were to talk about like when people do news and when they do like celebrity talk and that kind of stuff, they almost always have a pop-up of the celebrity that pops up in the frame, and they say, Mike Tyson and Jake Paul are about to fight, and this is what Mike Tyson recently said in the last interview, or Mike Tyson slapped Jake Paul when they did their weigh-ins last night. And so you're saying the name, which verbally is already saying something. Text-based, you're going to read that subtitle, and it's going to say Mike Tyson. And then if you have a pop-up of that, or even better, which some people do, and if you're not like super married to having to do like super professional content, you do a green screen where you have both Jake Paul and Mike Tyson in the background, and you're just in the corner with a little microphone, and you go, look at what happens when Jake Paul and Mike Tyson go to their weigh-in. And when you say something like that, you're like, I got to see what happens right here. And then you clearly watch the rest of the video. So visual doesn't have to be as extreme as you're, a Red Bull star, or you're flying off of a mountain, or you're drifting on snow in some F1 race car. Like, you don't have to be that extreme. But what you have to do is you have to just show something that visually people not only are going to drive, it's not only going to drive curiosity to them, but it's going to open their mind to thinking, something has to fill this gap, or at least like something that I understand or I can recognize that I can cling to. And then you use those other things about setting the expectation for the rest of the video that gets them to want to watch it. And so it can be as simple as using a movie clip, right? It can be as simple as using a TV show clip. It can be as simple as using a graphic of some famous person. It can be anything. A lot of the accounts that I see that blow up super fast are accounts that just leverage the attention that other people are getting and just talking about them. For instance, there was people that went viral all the time and built up insane followings that did journalism just on the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case, because there was updates like every single day, and it was ridiculous. And so all they did was just piggyback off of other people that were already going viral for something else, and they just did news coverage on it. And so there was this guy that had a video that I want to say he got like, I want to say it was like 20 million views. Maybe it was more. Maybe it was 12 million. Might have been even more than that. He talked about how there's this guy that is building an Iron Man suit out of his garage. And when he says that, and he literally uses a visual graphic of this guy building an Iron Man suit in like a crazy shot of the helmet in his garage, and he says the term Iron Man, then not only does he know that this has potential for virality because it's such a unique story, but also it relates not only to people that might be in engineering or in robotics, but it's also interesting to people that are in the world of Marvel and that are like Marvel nerds. Like if I saw that video, I don't care about the engineering and the robotic stuff, but I care about how like this guy is trying to make an Iron Man suit because I'm a big Marvel nerd. And so I'm going to watch that video anyways. And even though he talks about some of the robotics and the nomadics and that kind of stuff in it, I don't care. I just want to see, like, did this guy like finish the suit? Like, what's going on with this thing? The point is that when you can leverage other people that have already gone viral for you, or that people are going to understand and that's going to register with them much faster in that hook, that's how you can gain traction really, really fast. So talk about famous people, talk about trending things in the news, talk about the biggest faces out there. The problem is that if you try to like name bait too much with like people that are already famous and it doesn't have anything to do with what you're really talking about, then it's not going to perform that well. But if I wanted to make a video right now in the world of social media and I want to talk about something viral, then I'd probably talk about someone like Mr. Beast because he's already gone super, super viral, or Mark Rober, who's gone super, super viral, or Dude Perfect. Like these are the guys that are already monsters at it. And if I just did like a breakdown on their social content, I'm sure that those videos are going to perform way better than just videos of like how to get better at hooks, because most people know who those guys are. And so they're going to be interested in learn about those guys more and about what they do, even if it's behind the scenes or it's like on the financial side, or, you know, like how much money do the guys over at Dude Perfect really make? This is going to blow your mind. Boom, right there, hook, visual, show them, maybe even have a shot of like all of them celebrating over like some crazy trick shot that they just did, because then that's an even better visual. Whatever it is, you just think about how to use that to your advantage and then get people hooked into the video. So visual, again, is probably the easiest because you can just leverage things that are already popular out there. But if you get really good at this, you learn how to create things uniquely on your own to where you don't have to leverage and use famous people all the time. And so some of those could be, I've seen a guy that literally dresses up like a gecko and he has a green face. His face is painted green and he just takes advice from people online. I think that his name is it's got to be like some gecko guy, counseling TikTok. If I show you that, look, it's going to pop up this right here. Therapy Gecko. That's who this guy is. This is him. If you're scrolling and you see this on your feed and the first sentence says, "I'm sexually attracted to," I'm hooked. I'm going to watch this. This has 911,000 likes, not even views. I'm not sure how many views this thing had. What did it say at the beginning of this? 5.1 million views. That's what that guy has. So you could do so many creative things visually. Just start to think outside of the box and what can I do that's disrupting the eye of the viewer to make them want to stop and then listen to whatever I have to say. All right, the last one that we're going to talk about, and this one's great, and we're going to go back to memes are about this, is going to be captions. And by the way, if you find this content valuable that we're going through and doing real examples and breaking these things down, this is a much longer video than I thought it was going to be. But if you find this helpful, then just let me know, because it honestly helps me with teaching a lot of this stuff. I hate just talking directly to the camera. I love using tangible examples and stuff. But let me know if you feel like I'm exhausting this a little bit too much, or you want to hear more things, or you want more examples, whatever it is. Just leave your feedback down below in the comments, because that just helps me to better serve you and make more content that actually is helpful for you. All right, so the last one we're going to talk about is captions, and this is what we call the Hail Mary hook, because it's not the hook that you're basing all of your content on, but it is the hook that can get people to still want to watch your content if all else fails. So if we come back into this is the caption you're going to put right here. Now, the mistake that I see most people make, that I've done myself as well, is I just describe or I extend what I'm talking about and I just make that the focus of like the rest of the video, or I'm sorry, the rest of the caption. And then that's it. And no one cares to watch and no one cares to read, because it doesn't do anything to drive curiosity. I think the number one thing that we're trying to do now, every video doesn't have to necessarily drive curiosity, but if we're talking about virality and we're talking about trying to get a piece of content to perform super, super well, it has to be around curiosity. That's the only way that you can do it to get people to want to watch more. There's other videos that have worked in the past, but the ratio of like how fast it takes to go viral, it just takes much, much, much longer for you to do that. But if you can create curiosity gaps in the viewer's mind, the more often the better, then that's what's going to drive better engagement for your content. And so Memes Art does a great job of this, where for every single video that they do, they always have something in the caption that explains even more, that almost adds on top of the videos the curiosity gap of what's going to happen. So not only does it say no freaking way, and she said, "Can I get a picture of the fish you just caught?" with this face emoji that's like, oh my gosh. but it also says, I would be so mad. Okay, so what's probably going to happen? You have some kind of expectation. You're like, I think this is going to happen, but I don't know until I see it. And then you watch it, and it's not so long that you're like, yeah, I got the point. It's short enough to where you're like, dude, that's freaking hilarious. Okay, so you keep going down the line, and you find in every single one of these, we all have that one chronically offline friend. And then how it feels sending a message to that one friend that replies 2 days later. It's like it looks like it's just a clip of Harry Potter with Hedwig, and he's just sending him off like a pigeon for a message, right? So it's any of these guys that you just click into this and you say, they better pass the ball to the little homie. Like, and it's got an anger emoji. My son was so excited to be on the team. Not trying to be dramatic, but I would go to war for this child. Okay, so here's something else to notice is this could also, right? This could also be replaced here. They could put this right here. But they felt that it was necessary to add this on the bottom as well. They're just changing up the format and literally just trying to do a pattern disrupt, because you look at the top and then you look at the bottom too. But like saying, not trying to be dramatic, but I would go to war for this child. What we're doing is we're creating a reaction. Okay, so when you get to the end of a video and you see a reaction like that to the video itself, then now, one, you're foreshadowing a reaction that someone else had about it. Hopefully that is their real and authentic reaction. But again, it's setting up this curiosity gap where I'm wondering what's going to happen with this kid. Like, I see these guys on the field. I see 3 kids out there. My son was so excited to be on the team. They better pass the ball to the little homie. All of this is just setting an expectation for me to think something is going to happen to this kid where I'm going to feel bad for him, and it's going to give an emotional reaction to me of some kind of outrage that makes me want to, like, say something about it. But then you start reading the comments, and I'm kind of, it's kind of giving it away, but it's like, I would love to be on this team. The innocence, oh, my heart, he's having a good time. Protect him at all costs. Anyone would go to war for this, right? Like, all of this is just adding to the curiosity of it, but I want to see the reactions. But that's what we want to do. When you have a caption like this, whenever you're posting your content, don't just do the basic thing of just extending what you're talking about and just saying something else. Do something that's going to strike curiosity in the viewer. And because what's going to happen is their mind is going to go to the visual hook first, then the text base and the verbal base probably at the same time. Then it's going to be audible if it hears it. And if it's not that, what they're probably going to do is they're going to look over at the socials on the side, the icons, and they're going to say, is this video already viral? Does it have a lot of likes? Does it have a lot of shares, a lot of comments? Does it have great engagement? Now, if it doesn't, last thing they're probably going to look at is the caption itself. And if the caption is just a continuation of whatever you were talking about, they're going to be like, I don't care. But if it asks a question that drives enough curiosity in that person to be like, oh, I'm actually curious what you have to say about this, then it's going to make them bounce back up to want to watch the video. So that's that Hail Mary. It's that last shot. You're hoping they're going to see something. It's not what we place our bets on, but it is absolutely supplemental to when we're trying to drive more people to want to watch the video. And so when it's specifically with content, for most of us that are doing this, it's educational type content, the best way to do this is you either do a reaction, like you just say like, this thing pisses me off all the time, or like, I cannot stand when people say this thing, or whatever it is. That could be it, but it could also be a question. So asking a question is one of the best ways to do it, because you create an open loop, because even if you ask the question, they not only are going to try and answer it in their own way or think about how would they answer that, but they're probably curious about how would you answer that question. And if you can do it in a very unique way, whatever you're talking about, and in a way that is not what everybody else says, then that's going to drive more curiosity into them wanting to watch the video all the way through to the end, instead of just cutting it off at like 5 or 6 or 7 seconds. So the caption hook is actually super, super underutilized by most people. And I still think that there's so much room for growth on this when it comes to the content creation process. It should be the last thing that you think about, but it should always be some kind of supplement. So use an emoji, have it to be a reaction or to have it be some question, but whatever it is that you're going to make it, it needs to be something that's going to drive more curiosity for the viewer. It's not going to add to it. It's not going to do anything else that makes people want to watch any farther. So that's it right there for you, my friends. That is all of the 5 elements of a hook. I'm looking through my notes real quick. That's everything. I mean, like we'll break down each of these way more in depth and talk about what it takes to create a great hook and how to incorporate things like emotions into it and tonality, pacing, so many of the things that can go into creating the ideas around this stuff. But in general, these are the 5 elements that every single video can have when it comes to a hook. Now, the question becomes, how many of these should you incorporate into one single video? The answer to that is it depends, because it depends on what type of content you're doing. What you just need to be careful of is what's called cognitive overload theory. It's basically this theory that there is only so much that your brain can take on at any given time before it's overwhelmed. And so if you try to put a visual and you try to do a verbal and you try to do a text base and you have your caption and you have like this crazy sound going on, if you have too much going on the screen at once, it can overwhelm people and make them want to just scroll right past because their brain is having to work too hard to watch the content. So you just want to be careful. But if you're doing a verbal based hook, you can absolutely add a visual to that as well. But I probably wouldn't try to do anything crazy on the Audible because you don't want it to be too distracting from the verbal or the visual that you have in your video. If you're going to do a text based hook while you also have a verbal, you just have to be careful that if you're putting text on it and you have captions down below, that you're not distracting them from reading one or the other to where you're like, wait, what does this thing say? Because if you only put that text-based headline hook in the video for about 3 to 5 seconds and then it goes away, they might have missed what that said because they were reading the captions to the video or they were looking at the visual. So there's just only so much time that they have for these things. So you just have to be considerate of watching this like you're a stranger and asking yourself, am I kind of overwhelmed by this if I saw this in my feed? What would I look at first if I were watching this video by itself? And if you can't answer that question without being biased or feeling like you're not able to answer that question authentically, then go and show it to some people and be like, hey, when you watch this, what was the first thing that you noticed? What was the first thing that you looked at? And they'll tell you, or they might be like, dude, that was kind of overwhelming. I honestly didn't look at any of it because it was too much for my brain. That right there is a great barometer for being able to determine whether or not a video is going to perform well or not perform well, because you're literally sending it to a stranger. And the more broad you are, hopefully the person you're showing is someone that hopefully would want to see that content too. So at the end of the day, when you're adding these things together, you just have to make sure that we're not overwhelming the audience with too much, but definitely supplement where you feel like it's lacking in an area where that could help that video perform better. So just remember those 5 things, memorize them, burn them into the back of your brain. You have your verbal hook, you have your visual hook, you have your text-based hook, you have your audible hook, and you have your caption hook. Those are the 5 core elements for what a video can have. It can span across all types of content and all industries and niches and markets and styles and all those things. It can apply to any of them, but you just have to know how to do it, when it's the right time to do it, and then what makes that a great hook. All right, so I hope that was valuable for you in this episode. If it was, again, drop a comment, let me know, leave me a review, whatever it is. I just want to make sure that I continually grow in this. This is only my second episode doing this. So obviously we got some rough edges. We're going to work on this thing. But my goal is I just want to show you as much as I've learned and more to encourage you and give you the insightful information and tactical tips to actually go and take this information and make better content for your socials. And if it does that, then all I can ask for in return is you just hit me up on my socials and give me a follow and just interact with my content and give me ideas and ask me questions, because what I want to do is actually create a community of people that I can support when it comes to social content and show you the ways of the wizards that do it and what I've been learning and what is working for me and for what my firm is doing, and being able to support you in what you're doing as well, because it is a really tricky road. Organic content is so challenging and there's so many issues that we come into, and I want to make sure that you are being set up for success as best as possible, and that the gurus that are hiding secrets out there from you, that it doesn't happen for much longer, because I'm going to start exposing a lot of stuff that I've been learning. All right, that's all I got. I hope you guys love that, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Keep crushing it with content.